Now, I know what you're thinking. You're a medical cannabis patient. Why are you making a video criticizing the cannabis industry? Honestly, that's a fair question. Because if you've watched this channel for any amount of time or even Instagram, you know I'm a medical cannabis patient myself. I've spoken positively about medical cannabis. I've talked about how it's helped me. So why make a video like this? Because supporting medical cannabis doesn't mean supporting everything happening around it. Over the last few years, I've watched this industry grow rapidly, and I've started asking some difficult questions. Questions about prohibition, questions about organised crime, questions about who is actually making the money, questions about whether patients are actually benefiting as much as they should be. Because when you start digging into this topic, you'll realise something. This isn't just about cannabis anymore, it's about power. Now, before we go any further, let me make one thing clear. This video isn't promoting cannabis, it's not encouraging anyone to break the law, and it's not an attack on medical cannabis. I support safe, legal access for patients. But supporting medical cannabis doesn't mean turning a blind eye to the problems that still exist within this industry. So, what's the reality of prohibition? Most people think prohibition is simple. Make something illegal, people stop using it. Problem solved. Looking back in history, you know that hasn't happened. Cannabis has been prohibited in the UK for decades, yet millions of people still use it. Demand never disappeared, and when demand exists, somebody will always supply. The problem is that prohibition often pushes the supply into the hands of organised crime. And across the UK, we've seen reports of cannabis farms linked to criminal groups. We've seen modern day slavery cases. We've seen vulnerable people trafficked and exploited. And that's the dark side of prohibition. The conversation is usually about the plant. But the bigger question is, what happens when you create a huge market and force it underground? Because somebody will always fill that gap. So, the medical cannabis paradox. Medical cannabis became legal in the UK in 2018. Now that's a positive thing. Thousands of patients now have legal access to treatment. But despite that progress, there are still major problems. Many patients are paying hundreds of pounds every month. And personally, me, I spend a lot. Some struggle with access, some struggle with availability. I mean, even some just, for me for example, some of them on alternate leaf will just go straight away, like Vasco, a few others, and those are expensive as well. Some struggle with availability, others simply can't afford treatment at all. At the same time, the illegal market continues to exist. So we've ended up with this strange situation where cannabis is legal for some people, but illegal for others. And both markets continue to operate side by side. And I think that's where we need a bit more of an honest situation, because neither side seems to have solved all the problems. Now, let's follow the money. Now here's where things get a little bit uncomfortable. Patients shouldn't have to choose between paying bills and paying for medication. Medical cannabis exists because patients fought for access. Patients built this movement. So when I see products launching at prices many ordinary patients simply cannot afford, I think it's fair to ask who these products really are for. I think some companies are putting profits before patients. I think charging around about £40 a gram for medical hash and discussions around products that could reach £80 a gram for rosin raises serious questions about affordability. I think patients have every right to question whether parts of the medical cannabis industry are becoming disconnected from the people it claims to serve. And when patients are struggling to afford medicine while companies are reporting strong revenue growth, it's reasonable to ask whether patient welfare is really the top priority. Now, before anyone twists my words, I'm not saying companies shouldn't make money. Of course they should. but there is a difference between making a profit and creating products that many patients simply cannot access. If medical cannabis is healthcare, then patients should come first. The corporate cannabis boom. One thing I noticed is how quickly this industry has changed, even this last year that I've been on it. What was once largely driven by patients, activists and campaigners has rapidly growing international business. Companies are reporting millions in revenue, investors are paying attention, governments are paying attention, and large businesses are expanding across Europe and beyond. Again, there's nothing wrong with success, but patients should still ask the questions: who controls supply? Who influences the market? Who benefits most from regulation? And who benefits most from prohibition? Because if patients aren't asking those questions, who will? So who really benefits? That's the question at the center of this entire video. Who really benefits? Patients? Businesses? Organized crime? Investors? Because right now, patients are still struggling and the black market still will exist. Trafficking and exploitation will still exist. And at the same time, parts of the legal industry are growing rapidly. So maybe we need to stop treating this as a simple debate between legal and illegal. And maybe we need to start focusing on outcomes. Does the system reduce harm? Does it help patients? Does it reduce exploitation? Because that's what should matter, not ideology, not politics, and certainly not profits alone. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I genuinely love to hear yours. Do you think prohibition is working? Do you think the medical cannabis system is working? Do you think patients are being listened to? Or do you think parts of the industry have become too focused on growth and profit? Let me know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to Go for Broke Smoke, share this video with anyone who needs to hear this. As always, thank you for watching, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.